Now that we've got our player moving, we need to add some obstacles to the game. We're going to be creating some grass platforms and floating bridges for the player to interact with to provide some challenge to our game. Go ahead and plug in your USB flash drive and make sure you have the step-by-step project guide somewhere. In this phase, we're going to create some obstacle object types. We're going to make them solids because we want them to be impassable objects. We're going to be using the sign behavior for the first time. And we're going to be setting the obstacles properties as appropriate. So let's get started. Let's start with our project guide. Let's go to the table of contents, and the phase we're working on is called obstacles. All the steps you need are right here. So if you missed anything in the video, feel free to work along with the step-by-step project guide. Let's open up our project. Go to Colstock, Game Dev, Model Platformer. All right, last time we did some work with event sheets. This time we're going to be adding some object types. Let's go to our layers. Right now we have two layers. We have background, that should be locked. We're going to be working with the game layer because the player is going to be interacting with obstacles we're putting on that layer. Make sure it's unlocked and that it's selected. I'm going to go ahead and go over to level 1 so that I can see what I'm doing. Let's go to the project bar, and I want you to right click on object types, insert new object type. We're going to be inserting a sprite object type. We're going to give it the name grass platform. And press insert. Your crosshair should appear. It should indicate the game layer. Go ahead and click. Open up the folder. And inside the assets directory, we're going to be looking for grass platform 96 by 56. Double click on that. We're going to change our origin point so that when we're using the grid to position the platform, it snaps nicely. Remember, we can use a combination of the grid and independent arrow movements. So for X, our left to right axis, we're going to say 0, and Y, our north-south axis, we're going to say 56. That's going to bring it all the way to the lower left corner. All right, close with the red X. You should see yourself a nice grass platform. Let's go ahead and assign that to the solids family because this platform we want the player to be able to sit on top of. Let's go to under families, solids, and choose edit. Select the grass platform and click add and OK. Let's go ahead and play the game. Okay, so it looks like it's a solid. I just need to bring it down. There we go. So now we have a grass platform that's solid that the player can interact with. At this point, take a couple minutes and spread some of these platforms about your layout. So hopefully you took a minute to duplicate the grass platforms we made. Remember, it's Control Drag Release. You can also Control C, Control V. I placed mine all over the layout in the beginning and the end. The other thing I did was I took the player and I'm going to position the player at the very top of these platforms up here. Once again, I'm using a combination of the grid and manual movements. The other thing I did was I took the alien, the visual representation of our player, and I'm just going to put it out here on the margin. Because remember, when the game runs, it is going to position the alien wherever the player is. Let's go ahead and play this and see what it looks like. Looks like all of my animations are working. And I've got a nice beginning of a game that will keep the user challenged and will allow me to put some more enemies and obstacles on the layout. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to add a floating bridge. So let's go back to Construct 2. Okay, new object type. Right click, insert new object. going to be a sprite, and let's call it bridge, capital B, and insert. The crosshair appears. As you can see, the destination is the game layer. So let's go ahead and click. We're going to use the folder to find the graphic that's associated with the floating bridge. Floating bridge 95 by 27. Press open. Same thing here. We need to set our origin point. Our X coordinate is going to be 48. Halfway. And then our Y is going to be 14. Also halfway. Click the red X to close, and you should see that we have a bridge. I'm going to take my bridge and put it down towards the end of the layout. This is something that the player is going to be able to stand on top of, so we need to make it a solid. So under Families, I want you to go to Solids, right-click, Edit, and you're going to add the bridge to the list of object types in the family. Remember, I can Control, Drag, Release to duplicate as many of these as I want. When I play the game, since it's a solid, the player will be able to stand on top of it. We're going to add a unique behavior to the bridge to make it look like a floating bridge. Under Object Types, make sure you have Bridge selected, right-click, Behaviors. We're going to add what's called the sine behavior. It's called sine because of the sine wave. You may be familiar with that from your math class. Under Movements, I want you to choose Sine and Add. We're going to rename this Bridge Side to Side. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a sine behavior that makes the bridge move back and forth. And so the behavior that you use in Construct 2 to make this happen is called sine. You can use this a lot of different ways. You can make things go up and down versus side to side, or a combination of the two. Once you add this behavior to an object type, you'll notice that over on the left, there's going to be different properties. So we're going to make a couple of changes here. Over here, with bridge selected, we are going to set the floating bridge properties. This bridge side to side sine behavior is what allows us to do that. We're going to change the movement, make sure that it's horizontal. The wave is sine. The period, which is the time it takes to complete a cycle, we're going to change to 10 seconds. The magnitude is the number of pixels that the floating bridge will travel. Let's go ahead and play our game again and see what we have. Now you can see the bridge is truly floating. It's moving back and forth. Right now, all the bridges are behaving exactly the same, but you can click on each individual instance of the bridge and you can change its individual properties. I want to show you real quick how that works. Let's say I had a couple of floating bridges side by side. If I click on bridge, if you look in the properties bar, you'll see that my period is 10, my magnitude is 150. But I can change how I want individual bridges to behave. So if I click on this instance of a bridge, I can change its period to say 3 seconds, make it move really fast. Whereas this bridge still is at period 10 seconds, and magnitude 150. Let's play the game and see the change. So I'm going to move down my layout so I can see these bridges. Notice how the bridge I changed to period 3 is moving really fast, whereas the bridge I left alone is still moving relatively slow. Just remember, you can set the properties of individual object instances. In this case, one bridge can have different sine properties than another. Let's go back to Construct 2. Take a moment to duplicate and position the bridges and set their properties to where you want them. I settled on having just a couple of floating bridges. I placed them near the end of the layout. This one has a magnitude of 160 and this one has a magnitude of 145. Feel free to place floating bridges wherever you want on your layout and set the properties as appropriate. Let's make sure we save our game if we haven't already. Looks like I'm already saved. If you haven't, it's File Save or Control S.